I was told by the professional day traders, most of them, on a consensus basis, is this. Initially, there is a massive loss. Secondly, there is a small loss. And then thirdly, there's a small gain. And then fourthly, there is a massive gain. So I thought about that and I looked back on a record of data that I kept in Excel spreadsheet for the past 1 year. Looking back at my data, when I wrote something on the side and I read what was written, it is mostly due to um, not being patient. That's one. The second part is this. Um, I didn't have stop loss on it. It's just simple. Any huge losses that I had was because I did not have an OCO, TD Ameritrade stop loss. It's as simple as that. So it looks to me, in order to transition from a massive loss to a small loss, is to have a stop loss. That is the primary thing that I need to use in order to step into a small loss. And what is the transition that I need to do in order to go from a small loss to a small win, right? So I think I have an idea what that small transition is. Uh, Now that I'm using every time I make a trade, now I'm using an OCO. I used to do it, but I got lazy and I turned it off because it's easier to not think about it, because if it keeps working on days where the stock market is just bouncing back and just keeps going up, then I don't even have to think about uh, being patient or setting up a stop loss because it always works. So trading is really transitioning from a heavy loss to a small loss is essentially having a stop loss, knowing that it could go the other way and minimizing that loss. So the plan, the birth of the trading setup is to make sure that I have an 80% win rate with a 20% loss and minimizing the equal or less amount of losses during the time that I lose compared to the winning days. So um, if I have the same magnitude in gains versus losses, because 80% of the time I'm winning, then the net effect towards the end of the month is that I'll have about 60% that's a gain, even if it's the same. So the idea is to transition from a massive loss to a small loss is essentially placing a OCO. It is simple as that. As simple as that. A week or 2 weeks, up days, and one day will just erase everything that I made. In order to stop that, completely stop it, and I've done this numerous times, but there's other psychological factors that prohibits me from doing that. It is amazing. It is amazing. It is amazing as a dog biting its own tail or chasing its own tail. Human beings, human beings, I for one, it seems so logical and reasonable to think differently, but in certain situations where greed comes in, I revert to a state or a condition in a mental capacity where I'm chasing my own tail. So I believe I finally have the massive losses taken care of. As long as I have, just thinking logically, but greed will overcome any logic whatsoever. So, massive loss to small loss is an OCO. The other part of it, transitioning from a small loss to a small gain, then is being patient. If I am patient within a day, uh, stocks move up or down, and if I wait for a certain point where it's actually on the average trading ranges, min and max positions, and I wait for it so that I can go a call or a put at the point where it's a high or a low, then I'm able to wait. Waiting seems to be the next step. Being patient. Being patient seems to be the next step, transitioning from the small loss to a small gain. Then, transitioning from a small gain to a massive gain is this. Combining those things all together, OCO, small gains. And if I were to 10x of the small gains, 10x of any small gain compared to a small gain is a massive gain. So leveraging up is the other way of maximizing, transitioning from a small gain to a massive gain. While I'm doing that, I'm considering that it is only a single or two setups that I use in considering winning trades. And therefore, if I'm able to consider other setups, increasing my bag of tricks after I hone and craft that single or one or two setups that gets me to a small and consistent gain. If I can make those small gains consistent, okay, consistent, I'm not talking about, okay, as you know, as you and I know, this recording is for you, just you. So if I transition from a small loss to a small gain, and if I'm consistent for about 3 months, if I'm consistent for 3 months, not when the market is going up for 3 months, I'm talking about when the market is choppy, earnings are there, there's wars, there's pandemics. When those things do occur, and I'm still, and even if the market is not as volatile, or maybe it is extremely volatile, and even when I trade each and every day, and I'm consistent 80-20 rule for a prolonged period of time, at which point, after 3 months of consistency, then I can increase the magnitude of my capital exposure to risk. When I slowly transition my capital risk at a higher level, then I will slowly increase and move towards the maximum gains. So these are the setups that I'm thinking of, and I believe based on this logic, as long it seems to me at this point now is this: the most difficult part right now is this: transitioning from a small loss to a small gain on a consistent basis. And everything else is easily eradicated because on the other extreme of massive loss is taken care of with the OCO. The other side is just multiplying the consistency that I've achieved with a small gain on a prolonged basis. So I look forward to proving this out. And the other part is, perhaps I heard somebody from pro day traders, is this, that once a system has been proven out, and each and every day is very predictable, within the bounds of 80-20 rule, it seems to be that there could be some sort of boredom that will cause me to do something that will break the rules. Okay, so I expect something like that to occur, and that may adjust the percentages between 80-20 or something like that. So that 80% rule, 80-20 may shift from 70 to 30%. And hopefully, yeah, and so there are some other factors as well that I need to carefully consider and make sure that the outside influence do not interfere with the peace and calm of being a day trader.